Zamecki, and this week's guest will be the co-chairperson of the Atheist Community of Austin, Don Rhoades. I almost spaced out there, Don. I'm sorry. You got nervous there on camera and almost forgot your name. Why don't you introduce the audience here to the Atheist Community of Austin and some of the good things that we've been doing there.
Well, let's see. The Atheist Community of Austin is almost 2 years old. We have a large number of members. I don't have a count on hand right now, but we meet regularly. We have weekly meetings at a downtown bagel shop. We do social activities, happy hours. We'll do potluck dinners at members' homes. We participated in the AIDS Walk of Austin. We have our own website. We're incorporated as a nonprofit educational organization, and we have a lot of fun, and we can talk to each other and express ourselves about our philosophies and ideas, and we enjoy each other's company. It's a good group.
And like I was saying, well, I introduced Joe Zamecki here, my co-host. He has also a member of American Atheists, yes, besides being a member of an Atheist Community of Austin. And one of the most common questions we run across being an atheist whenever I introduce myself as an atheist is, where is Madalyn O'Hare? And would you please be an American Atheist? And
yes, we get that question quite a bit also. It's still a very interesting subject to talk about, as there have been no new developments even. And when I say that, I mean there's really nothing, there's no clues, nothing anybody can go by. I'm a full-time employee at American Atheists, and we get the same question all the time, and let me just set it to rest right now. In the last 2 years, there's just been nothing really to talk about with that. With the disappearance, there's no new clues to go by. Nobody really knows where they are. So we just, in the last 2 years, American Atheists has been rebuilding the entire organization. We're back. It's a great thing to announce. And I'm here as a, sort of a liaison member between American Atheists and the Atheist Community of Austin. And it's great to be here. And I have to thank you for letting me talk about that for a minute, and just basically put that to rest right now, and we can get on with the Atheist Community of Austin.
Thank you. And so let's go back to Don here. And as an atheist, is there anything that you could say that would actually brought you to the conclusion to be an atheist? Is there one main event in your life, maybe?
Well, I was, let's see, I was in junior high, I think, when I first started to question, and it was actually a comment, just an offhand comment that a girl that I was dating made about the angst in her life and her difficulty with her parents, and that she didn't believe in God, and a few things like that, and suddenly it was okay to think about it in that light. I had always tried to believe and went through the motions, and I think I did it like the vast majority of religious people did, but all of a sudden it was okay to think about there actually not being a God. And so I sort of turned that over in my head for a while, and I stumbled across a book by Bertrand Russell, which was Why I'm Not a Christian. It's kind of dry reading, and it's arguments. What the arguments are for Christianity, for theism, and his response to them. And it seemed to open up my mind a lot, because I kept thinking, is that all there is? Is that the best reasons that there are for believing that a God would actually exist? And the rebuttals to those arguments were pretty powerful. So there I was.
Interesting. I can't, my own personal experience, I can't say that I was that young when I came to it. I was actually baptized a Methodist, and the Methodist church I grew up in, they seemed to have very little to do with God. They were more concerned about who gave how much money to the new organ that we got, and how much expensive that organ was, and that this doctor gave this amount of money, and that's what they were discussing in church. And I was like, that just seemed a lost cause there. And then later I ran into Jehovah's Witness, and that what finally turned me totally off on religion. Their ideas of the Bible and religion were so perverted that it just convinced me that there had to be more out there. And so that's when I started doing my own research. And so I always introduced myself as agnostic for the longest time, until I got down here to Austin and met you folks and realized that to have the strength and the courage to go ahead and announce myself as an atheist there. But I guess I should do a little bit more explaining what behind the idea behind the show here. We want to let the community and the town of Austin and everything else to know that the atheists are not a bunch of Satanists. We're not out there trying to confront the Christians and battle them on their views and points there. We hopefully with each week there, as it goes on, we'll try to show is some of the fallacies in the Bible, some of the contradictions, what we feel is the misinformation that the Christians are putting out there, and other religious groups, not just the Christians. Wouldn't you say there, Joe,
Yeah.
that not just the Christians, but the Jews, the Muslims, the Buddhists, in general, anytime that you submit to a higher being, that a supernatural higher being has control of this earth and these events that go on like this, that you're not looking at life in a realistic manner.
Yes, there's a lot of other religions besides Christianity, of course. I get that a lot too, that atheists are only attacking Christianity, Christians. I like to say that there are a whole lot of silly religions out there. It's just that right here in America, Christianity happens to be number one. It happens to be the number one persecution situation also. In the nation that is so overly religious like the U.S., Christianity being number one here, we don't get a lot of persecution as atheists from, say, Muslims or Jews, etc. But Christianity is right there ready and willing to persecute us as American citizens because we're atheists.
Oh, and as you can see, we do have a telephone number here for you folks to call and ask us questions and possibly debate us. And I understand we have one caller on the line here, and we'd like to try this. We're new at this, so bear with us if we get this wrong. Can we go ahead and try to get the caller on? We are trying right now.
Go ahead, John.
So, caller, stay on there. We're trying to get to you.
I believe in miracles.
Oh, he called that last time before.
Yes, thank you for calling in.
Thanks, Howard.
Yes, that was our first experiment into our live TV show, and that was the same caller. I wish they'd stay on there long enough to tell us her name there.
The same song and everything from
Yeah.
the last time we talked live.
So
When was that?
they brought up a good point, miracles, and well, we'll get back to the miracles. We do have another caller on the line. Can we try again? Hello, caller. Good morning,
Hello.
caller.
Hello, good morning.
Good
Hello.
morning.
Yeah, how you doing? I was wondering, do you guys have belief in an afterlife or something more permanent than your physical body, or
No,
what do you think about that?
I don't.
none of us do.
No afterlife has been proven to be real.
Do
No
you
one's
think
come
that
back yet.
You die and then your physical body disappears? I mean, life ends with your death, your physical death.
Yeah,
Correct.
ask any funeral director, and that's generally what happens.
Right. And my other question was, do you feel discriminated often as an atheist?
Yes, we do. My own personal experience here in Austin is we were trying to get a building for our group, and the realtor, as soon as he found out it was an atheist group, It's like, no, he wouldn't give us a price. He wouldn't tell us where the building was. He's like, I will not rent to an atheist. And so, yes, we do feel discriminated against.
Now, since there's no afterlife for you guys, how do you conduct your life? I mean, what motivates you to have a good life, to do good deeds or good actions? Just ethics, I think, or...
Good question.
Excellent question, yes. And maybe we all three can answer that. And my own personal experience is that I try to better myself each and every day through education, exercise, and try to contribute to the society. I vote. I'm out there voting on a regular basis. I'm out there reading, listening to the politicians, and trying to make Austin and United States, although such a little part here, but mainly Austin, a better place for all people, not just atheists, but all the people of Austin. And Don, how about yourself?
Well, I come from a family where honesty is valued, and so that's one of my values. I have a daughter, and I want her to get a positive experience from me. I want her to think of me as a good person. The people whose opinions I value, I want them to think of me as a good person. So I try to act in as an ethical and upright manner as I can, and I think that's what most people do. People that want to be ethical and moral. I don't know that religion has that much to do with it. I don't know that the idea of an afterlife really has that much to do with it. I think that you can look at it in a sense where your life continues, because there are memories, there are effects of your life that continue on. So to me, being an atheist does not preclude one from being a moral and ethical person at all.
And Joe, this is such an excellent question. I want you to answer too.
I'd like to say that religion does not guarantee morals at all. I've met so many religious people who it seemed also that the more religion they had, the less well they wanted to treat somebody as a friend or a neighbor. And I find the golden rule is most immediately, quickly, and easily broken by Christians. But as an atheist, my ethics basically are grounded in what my parents taught me as a child, and honesty being very important, like Don was saying, in my home, and treating others as I would prefer to be treated. Now, you can call that the golden rule if you like, but I think that the golden rule is a darn good idea that's been forgotten by its biggest proponents, so to speak. But an atheist does not need a religion in order to be a good person.
Okay, caller, we have some other callers
all
online.
Atheists think that there's no afterlife, or that's a personal choice of being an atheist?
To an atheist, it's all based on what's happened in the past, what's been experienced, what has been proven. If someone has come back from the dead, sure, we can believe it, but it hasn't happened. There's been no evidence of that ever happening, so.
And that doesn't frighten you a little bit? Tell that there's no afterlife, or nothing permanent?
It's a great fear tactic for weak-minded people who are ignorant of reality or running away from reality. But no, it doesn't scare an atheist.
All right. Thank you so much. Good
Thank
show.
you, caller.
Thank you.
It was well.
Bye-bye.
We have Charles and Mike on the line, and my producer in the control booth will pick one of the two there. I'm not sure which one of the two will come online next.
I think she picked me.
And your name?
My name is Mike.
Mike, thank
Okay,
you for calling.
Okay.
And
So you said a while ago that you are persecuted by Christianity. Can you describe that to me,
I
please?
think I said that.
I think you did say that, Joe. Would you?
Well, it's been my personal experience, and I've had lots of them with Christians, and there are several other things, though, like, for instance, in government, there's still a few states where it's illegal for an atheist to be on a jury or to give evidence in a trial or to hold public office. I believe Texas is one of those, and Arkansas, of course. But, several states you wouldn't expect. But besides that, there's been a lot of problems in the past where atheists simply are confronted by Christians or, again, other kinds of religious people, but in America it's mostly Christians, who immediately have a vendetta with us. I realize they feel that our existence basically is calling them liars, but at the same time they're doing the same with us. But we don't immediately feel a need to jump up and be vindictive and pressure Christians into becoming atheists. What I would like to do as an atheist, though, is to try to reach out to other atheists who do not feel that there are other atheists out there, that everybody must have a religion to be a human being. That's simply not true. But
Okay,
I mean,
can you compare this kind of persecution with the kinds of persecution that occur in atheist states? Like we're a Christian nation. We were founded as a Christian nation. Can you compare the persecution in states like Russia, China, communist countries where there is no God, and
there's plenty of religion in those communist countries.
Do what?
There's plenty of religion in those communist countries.
It's not allowed at all.
It is.
They're
wrong.
atheists.
In Russia?
And I would like to point out your fallacy in your first statement there. That, we are a secular nation. All the way back to the Treaty of Tripoli, we are not a Christian nation. Religion has no place in government.
One nation under God. It says on our dollar bill.
That's a result of McCarthyism.
That's a result of McCarthyism.
1953, that was put on our dollar bills.
So what about the Declaration of Independence?
What about it?
Doesn't it mention God in it several times?
But that is not a government.
Did not the original Congress give thanks to God for winning those unbelievable battles against unbelievable odds during the Revolutionary War?
No.
Not in.
I don't think so.
It
was men that won those battles, not a God.
But didn't our government gave thanks to God for allowing them to win the battle?
No, they didn't.
They didn't.
Don?
What I would like to say is that I think that if you look at the records of the Founding Fathers, their letters, their private conversations, you find that overwhelmingly they did believe in a God. You also find a surprising number of very influential people who were not Christians. We trace the amount of religious liberty in this country, which is a generous and fair amount. We agree, but the reason we feel like we have a wonderful amount of religious liberty is that the Founding Fathers weren't unanimous Catholics or Baptists or any one particular
right, but they were
religion.
unanimous Christians.
No, they were not.
There's nothing unanimous about
not.
Christianity as a whole. You cannot call it one group or whole idea of thinking. There were many. There were deists, there were Masons, there were Baptists, and there were atheists in the Founding Fathers.
Which one of the Founding Fathers was an atheist?
Ben Franklin's one of them, one of the more intelligent ones. I mean, you got Thomas Paine. Jefferson was a deist. Washington was a Mason, and he wasn't all that religious, although revisionism that's taking place in America can make it seem like that. But
well, I think you're totally wrong on your history there.
Well, we have it's out there to be. Say again, caller.
If you go on the basis that humans are good, which is apparently what you think, that you can just decide that you're honest and moral, and because you're human, then you'll end up with communism and communist China and hundreds of millions of people being murdered.
I think communism is stupid.
I think that's absurd.
It's dying, too. It's dying fast. Check out communism while you can, because it's not around for much longer, I think.
And back to what you're saying, the Declaration of Independence, it had nothing to do with our government as it is not a government document. It was just, it was written before the Constitution. Religion is, when religion is mentioned in the Constitution, is mentioned as a separate entity. It was not mentioned as part of government. All men are endowed by their
Creator.
Say again?
All men are endowed by their Creator.
Oh, that's your mom and dad.
That's my mom and dad. Huh?
Oh, two creators. I know two creators, right?
Aren't you quoting the Declaration of Independence again?
No, that's in the Constitution.
Endowed by their Creator.
All men are endowed by their Creator. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are...
That's the Declaration of Independence.
It doesn't say Christianity only. It doesn't say it's a Christian nation. So it doesn't say a word about God.
It just goes to show your confusion on to the history. So let's go to another caller, please.
Thanks.
Thank you, caller. Yes,
Thank you.
We do appreciate your call.
Hello?
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. I don't know how to ask this, but I see a lot of prime real estate in the Austin area that is non-taxable due to the churches.
Boy, that's a good point.
Excellent point.
I am not religious either way, God or the devil. I don't believe in those. I'm not sure what atheism is all about, but is there any legal way to associate my household with this organization or
call it our organization?
Pardon me?
with our organization?
Yes, or just call it the Church of Satan and not have to pay taxes on it.
Well, that brings up an excellent point. We believe in no supernatural, so we don't believe in the devil or God, either one. So as to having a Church of Satanism, we would have no input whatsoever and I'm not going to answer any legal questions.
A church, for that matter. I don't like that word. Okay, church, pastor, congregation. You can mix it up with all kind of free thought groups you like it, but it's still, the church is just the wrong word for it. Don't call it that.
Okay.
And what you're talking about, I think, has been done by some people to beat taxes. You call yourself a church, structure yourself like a church, and I think some people have been successful in beating taxes. Is that the right way to go about it? I don't think so. I disagree. I think the right way to go about it is to tax all nonprofit or charitable groups the same way.
Well, I agree with that, but I'm just looking at fighting fire with fire. I want these prime real estate properties to be taxed so my taxes won't be as high.
That's exactly what we want. Even it out and let everybody pay the same, and that seems
very good.
Fair.
Well, I'll hang up and just listen to your program then.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you. Excellent caller. We would not advocate anyone to try to do anything illegal to avoid taxes, but we, other than to go through the political process and be a good citizen and vote for politicians that do agree with you on your point on taxes there. So, does it look like we have another caller there? Oh, okay.
I was going to say about the tax, he raised a good point. A lot of groups do want to go ahead and try to do something like Church of Satan or Church of whatever, to have an organization or a church that is exempt from taxes. And in answer to that, I would have to say honesty is the best policy. I mean, if it's your intention to try to skirt taxes to be able to do that for the novelty of it, that's not good. I mean, it's not something I would agree with at all. I mean, any group in this country, for instance, there are a lot of nonprofit organizations that are trying to get things done. Okay, a lot of them will have very dishonest titles. You'll hear about a group that'll have a lofty sounding title that sounds all encompassing and innocent, and then later on you find out it might be something else. Well, I really think this explains it all. Atheist, first word in the title, tells you, out of all honesty, you won't get any ambiguous talk in the title of our organization, because honesty is the best policy, I think.
We feel the government's tax policies are, bit out of line. The government spending is way out of line and everything else, but we are trying to institute changes within the system. We do feel it's, the United States government is one of the best governments out there in the world, and we are not trying to dethrone it or anything else, but work within the system. How do you feel, Don?
Well, I love America. I spent 4 years in the Navy. My father was a decorated veteran of World War II, and I like this country a lot.
Yes.
I feel very strongly about it. And one reason that I do is the amount of religious liberty that we have in this country.
Exactly.
It's very important, and we have to defend it. It will always be threatened, and we will always need to be vigilant about that.
And I understand we have another caller on the line here. And caller?
Hello?
Hello?
Good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for calling.
Just wanted to make a comment on your statement about Masons being a religion. Masons are not a religion. You were saying earlier that the members of the Founding Fathers, one of them was George Washington was a Mason. That's true, he was a Mason, but Masonry is not a religion, and people for years have been getting confused by that factor. It's not a religion.
I've done a little bit of studying on Freemasonry and find that it could be called a religion. There are several very important parts of it that are of a religious nature. I mean, if anything's to be called a religion, first and foremost, they start their meetings, I understand, with a good, solid Christian prayer. And it was incorporated into their services, so to speak, back then when Washington was around. It was a pretty powerful part of society, too. But I mean, if it wasn't a religion on the surface and whole, then it certainly had enough to do with religion that it was a big enough part of Washington's life and several other of the Founding Fathers that it basically could be called their religion.
Well, one of the basic tenets is that you must believe in deity, and I understand as an atheist you don't believe in deity.
Correct.
But all you have to do is believe in a higher being to be a Mason. It doesn't matter whether it's Jehovah, whether it's Mohammed, whether it's God. It doesn't matter what name you give it. As long as you believe in a higher being, then you become a Mason. So you understand that in Masonry there are Jewish people, there are Muslim, there are various religions throughout the world that are Masons.
Yeah, are you a Mason yourself?
Yes.
I was going to say, you sound very knowledgeable about the group. Like as you say, we don't believe in any supernatural higher being whatsoever.
Right. Well, I wasn't trying to argue that factor. I just wanted to let you guys know that you know, somewhere in your fact-finding mission, I think you kind of got a little bit off as far as trying to call Masonry a religion, and it's unfortunately in this day and age, people still believe Masonry is a religion. Therefore, they try to label Masons as some kind of cult or whatever you want to call it.
The only kind of masonry I know anything about is the masonry in my house.
Okay, all right.
Thanks for calling.
Appreciate it.
And let's go to another caller. We've had some quite intelligent callers this morning.
Yeah, that was great.
Good question.
I appreciate
A
that.
member of the Masons. I like that.
Hello?
Good morning.
Yeah, how you doing? It's me again. I was your second caller.
Oh,
I
yes.
have another question.
Sure.
Are you protected by the Constitution? Such as, for example, under the Constitution, you're prohibited to discriminate against a religious group, right?
As far
Is
as
that
I
correct?
understand.
It's one of the amendments.
For example, an employer cannot deny employment to someone because of his or her religion, right?
Correct.
Now, you're not a religious group by definition,
Correct.
right? So if I'm an employer, I could discriminate against you guys just in the same way that I can discriminate against other groups such as fat people or people with glasses that are not protected under the Constitution.
But your religion would be the situation there. I see what you're saying. You're saying there's no religion, but it would be if it was your religion that caused you to not like atheists. Typically, it would be.
Unfortunately,
I guess that my question is that under the law, are you considered a religious group?
no.
No.
We are a non-profit educational group.
Okay, so if I was an employer, or if there's an employer out there, can they just go to you and say, well, I'm not going to employ you because you're an atheist?
If they were dumb enough to put that down in writing, and they would end up with a lawsuit for sure. But it's an at-will state, so they could actually fire you for whatever reason they want.
Right, but you said that there would be a lawsuit, but based on which law? Or which law would they be breaking?
That would be covered under discrimination because of religion, simply because it's not just that you're saying they're atheists. What you're also saying is they're not religious. And as soon as you inflect that kind of word, the religion part, that's all it is. I mean,
Under the law, in other words, under the law, you would be considered as a religious group or
no.
as an individual with a religious belief by not having a
It would be the employer.
And I feel the point is, if we got fired for being an atheist, then we'd be fired for not agreeing with my employer's religious views.
Yes.
And
right.
that would be a very good lawsuit.
Right, but I don't understand why. I mean, if you're not...
Because he's firing us because we don't agree with his religious points.
Under the Constitution, you would be considered a religious group or an individual with a religious belief, which that's what the Constitution says. I mean, the Constitution, for example, doesn't say anything about fat people or people with glasses. I can go to someone and say, well, I'm not going to hire you because you use glasses, or I'm not going to hire you because because you're fat. I am legally permitted to discriminate against them.
No, because if you actually fired a person because they was fat, they would go to the employment board, they would get unemployment, and then the state would actually stand up behind them.
I'm saying someone that is pursuing a new job. I can just say to them, well, I'm not going to hire you because you use glasses. There's nothing in the Constitution that says to me that I can't do that.
Well, there are
I can't
acts,
discriminate
the Civil
against
Rights
people
Act,
in the basis of age, sex, religion, and others, right? But you, by definition, are not a religious group. So I don't know if you're protected by the Constitution.
As every American is protected by that stipulation and by that law, we are too. As atheists, we are protected from that discrimination for the basis of religion, even though we're not religious. I see what you're saying. We're not religious, so how can we be protected the way religious people are? Well, it seeks to protect Americans and not just religious Americans, all kinds.
Right.
We do appreciate you calling. We do have several other callers there, and you've already called twice, and I'm not trying to be rude, but let's...
Sure, no problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
And I'd just like to comment on that call that we are a religious minority and we're not a religion. There's a little bit of irony there.
Yes.
But atheism is concerned with the subject of religion. So whether we disbelieve it or not, we can still be a religious minority.
Let's go with Anonymous.
Oh, great.
This is Curious.
Hello.
Good morning.
I want to compliment that I'm enjoying your show and that y'all are very calm and nice and easy to listen to. That, you know, I just like how calm y'all are, because, I mean, I also said, like, if I go to church or whatever, that they're kind of like yelling and stuff. So I just thought that y'all are really nice and you're easy to listen to. And I think that y'all are intelligent also. And I've learned, you know, things this morning. I just listened to the channels and I turned you on, and I just stayed on because y'all, I like how calm y'all are. Just really good, and I just enjoyed the show overall.
Thank you very much.
This is our first show, and we really appreciate the compliment. Please tune in again. We'll be here Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. on Channel 16.
Okay, and just stay like the way you are. Just, you're nice and calm, and I think people probably will like enjoy it, because I just say for myself that I enjoy it. And I like it better than being yelled at in church. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for that compliment.
You know, you can actually get that same yelling a couple of channels down. In fact, on Sunday mornings, it's almost as if every channel turns religious, and many of which have to yell and shout. And that's something I've always wondered about Christianity. If it's so right and true, why can't you just say it? Why does it have to be screamed at the top of your lungs, and etc.?
But point that out again. We will be out here Sunday mornings. We'll be live every other Sunday. Next week will be a tape of this episode. And then this week here was just an introduction so we can meet. Joe will be my co-host. We'll be here every week. Myself, Ray, will be here every week. And Don is our guest this week. But we will be having tape episodes of different things going on. The Ten Commandments. We have a little episode about the Ten Commandments. We're going to start hopefully adding a little humor. We have Boss Ross episodes. We'll be adding a little humor there.
I don't know about that. Hey, can I real quick say our web address?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, we have a website for the atheist community of Austin. Get your pencil out. It's www.atheist-community.org. We'll be saying that again later.
And if you feel free to email us there. We have our weekly meetings are posted there. So, and we're always welcoming new members. And we have a caller.
Alrighty.
And with a religious name there, Esther.
Esther.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, I guess you're right.
Good morning.
I do want to ditto what the last caller said about you remaining calm, and it's more impressive. You have more leverage when you have people listen to your words and not your dramatics.
Thank you.
So that is impressive and refreshing in a broadcast of this nature. But I was just wondering of each of you, if y'all were born into a religious family and as you became adults changed that mentality, or are you from atheist parents, or what made you choose that sort of mentality or that sort of belief?
Well, we just go down the line. We'll start with Joe.
I was raised in a Roman Catholic home. I spent about 9 years in 2 Roman Catholic private schools, and I was totally indoctrinated, 100%. I went to church twice a week for 9 years. I used to read out of the Bible during Masses, before the congregations, and before my school. I participated in I took part in every sacrament that you can get up until about 8th grade. I was confirmed, I did the communion, and all the other things, just everything. And
marriage.
About 7th grade in that school, they started teaching us about physical science. And it was very interesting and wondrous, of course, to children. And we were talking about one of the basic tenets, one of the basic parts of science itself, which is the scientific experimental method. and we were going over what all it requires of someone if they have a theory, and that it needs to be proven if they want to call it a fact, and if they cannot prove it, then logically it cannot be called a fact. It's still just a theory, and science either repeats the experiment or moves on. And I said, well, that's a great way of proving things. I raised my hand and I said, well, teacher, do we have to do that same kind of thing for God? Do we have to prove that God exists? And she came back and said, no, God is exempt. And from that day on, I was a skeptic and a questioner, and when I went to church actually went to that school, the last 2 years of my time in that school, I was an atheist in a Roman Catholic school. And it was not easy, I tell you what. And but after that, I graduated from that 8th grade and went on to a public high school, and it was a real eye-opener about reality, about society and people and different opinions. I realized there were some people who did not believe in Jesus Christ, and it just it helped me to basically look at the big picture instead of the one-way, narrow Catholic opinion. I was able to look at a lot of different religions and decide. And after a while, it just, none of those religions made a darn bit of sense. And the more I thought about it, the more I learned, and the more studying I did of religions, you know, the more I'm an atheist.
Oh, okay.
I was actually baptized in the Methodist Church and went real regular every Sunday until I was like 15, until I was big enough to tell them I did not want to go. And they stopped forcing me at that point. And then
did you pursue or start reading into atheism, or did you meet someone who was an atheist and they gave you more information or education?
No, unfortunately not. There was no groups like this at that point in time. I had no idea that there were even other atheists in the group. I did my own research in the scientific point of view. I've always enjoyed the sciences and mathematics, and so basically came to it at my own conclusion.
In your researches and meeting people, have a majority of atheists been scientifically oriented thinking people?
I'd have to say yes.
We love science. We love the pursuit of knowledge, especially when it was previously unknown. Yes, we support science also, and all education, realistic education that's out there.
We're not a majority of scientists, but
okay.
we do support the scientific method in separating fact from fiction. To continue where y'all were, and I appreciate the question, Esther. I was raised in a Methodist home, and my experiences as a child with my religion and with that religion in my home were very positive. I started going to church in a little small rural country church, and it happened to be Methodist, and that's just where everybody went, no matter where what their background was. And I had lots of good experiences in my early years in junior high. So there was no reason really to reject it based on anybody's actions or any kind of dishonesty that I came across or anything like that. I came to a point where I was able to realize that that it was my personal opinion that I didn't think it was true anymore. So then you have to decide, are you going to act on that or not?
Mm-hmm. So like myself, I'm in the middle of trying to change religion, but I believe in a being, you know,
okay.
and that's just the way I think. But there's nothing that happened at any particular time that caused you to not believe in a higher being. I mean, not one particular thing, instance.
For most atheists, it's a long, arduous journey of exploration of the world and your own thinking. Some atheists take a year or two to go from believer to agnostic to atheist or whatever. Some take
short, like
20 years.
You mentioned that occurrence in the 8th grade, was it?
7th, yes.
7th, you know, to me I would consider that as a springboard.
Yes.
You know, but the other two gentlemen, nothing like that occurred. I mean, it was just a slow revolution. Evolution.
Evolution. There you go, thank you.
Better. Evolution to the atheism thinking.
There was, in my life, there was a period that I mentioned earlier that I was talking with a girlfriend who was going through some trouble in her life, and she was talking about everything that she felt was troubling her so bad that she was having trouble with her parents, and she didn't believe in God and like this, and suddenly it kind of became okay to question that. Now, it was many years later that I would actually call myself an atheist.
Right.
But at that point, I started the process of wondering, is this true? Is this really true?
Well, I again want to commend you on your show and on your the way you're handling yourself, and I also am impressed by the fact that you don't seem to have to belittle religious thinking people to get your idea or your opinion across, and I think that's in this day and age of talk shows where people feel they can stand up and criticize each and everything that they perceive. You're just saying how you feel without the need to belittle or criticize those of us that still do believe in a God, and maybe your behavior or your you being a very gentleman about it will carry more weight in the long run. Y'all have a good time.
Come on down and visit us.
Okay. Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We have some other callers online. Good morning, callers.
Hi there.
Hello.
Good morning.
One of you guys could tell me the difference between agnostic and atheist.
I don't think you'd be the one to do that, Ray.
Agnostic actually believes there's no proof for a God, whereas an atheist says there is no God.
It's a little more complicated. Well, I would say it's a little more complicated because I hear from all different kinds of people, agnostics included. Basically, an agnostic says that there might be something, but we can't know it. We don't know, and we don't have proof right now, but of course that doesn't mean there isn't, but that we can't know for right now, for some reason, for whatever reason. And they're sort of, in the middle road, a fence sitter, if you will, for a real basic term. And an atheist has gone one step farther and basically said, well, we've looked at all the evidence we've got. There's none there for any of these silly ideas. There's no reason to continue to roll on with it. Let's just go with what we've got. As a realist, an atheist basically only goes what's proven to be in reality. And an agnostic leaves a little bit of room open for the possibility. And it's no cut down to say that there are a whole lot of agnostics who someday will probably become atheists or revert back, whatever, but it's on a scale, sort of, if you think about it.
How about yourself, caller?
I'd probably lean more toward agnostic, I would believe, because just leaving the room open, because there's things that we didn't know several hundred years ago that we do know today, and who knows what we may find out in the future.
Well, okay. Thank you for calling.
Sure.
And we have Wayne on the line next.
Hello?
Good morning, caller.
Nope.
I'm sorry, I think we jumped ahead on my producer there.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Irma.
Oh, Erma.
That's me. I would like to know your views on Scientology. I mean, is that a religion? Is it a cult?
The only thing that I've heard recently about Scientology is they're in some kind of trouble with the German government. They've been, I guess, some discrimination or persecution going on over there. Do y'all know anything about Scientology?
My own personal experience with them, I would consider them a religion, yes, and they do have some good points on how to live life and how to cope with life and everything else. But again, they subscribe to a higher being, so as soon as you put that in there, they would have to be a religion.
I think they're a religion/business.
Yeah, good point.
A very big part of their situation is money. I've read some of their most basic introductory stuff, and they don't say that immediately, but just you can tell by looking at it, it's not cheap. What they give you as an introductory pack is all the best paper, glossy, best pictures, and it's very well done. It's very carefully done. And when they talk about a higher being and all, I kind of got lost with it just because it's beyond Christianity. It's taking it a step further, and there's other things, and it's very confusing. But in Europe, they've been getting in trouble, big trouble. Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Okay, that answers my question. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Now, do we have Wayne still on the line?
Hello?
Caller?
No.
Hello.
Hello.
Good
Hi.
morning. Good morning.
How are you guys doing today?
Excellent.
That's good.
Okay, I'll start here. You guys are atheists, right?
Correct. That's correct.
Which is to say that you believe there is, declaratively, you say there is no God, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I'd just like to ask you a couple questions, really. Basically, I could address it to the individual in the middle, I guess, one guy. My first question would be, as an atheist, sir, do you know everything in the universe? Do you know everything there is to know in the universe?
No, I don't.
Okay. I guess you could put, if you were to put a percentage on it, would you say that you maybe know 1% of the things of everything there is to know in the universe? I mean, would that be a fair statement to you? I mean, with the whole solar system, the whole universe, everything there is to know?
It's hard to answer that, because if you don't know everything there is to know, then you don't know how much of a percentage you actually do know.
That's actually true, but by looking at the vastness of the universe, and you know, with you could say even the things here on Earth, geology, physics, mathematics. Do you know everything about everything? I mean, what would you put your percentage as in terms of all there is to know?
We'll go with your percent. I have no problem with you putting 1% figure on that.
Right. You know, just in my opinion, I think that might be somewhat of an arrogant figure for someone to say that they actually know 1% of everything.
Okay, I agree with that.
But anyway, well then, sir, if that's true, that you really only know a small fragment of what it is that is to be known, how is it that one could declaratively say by that information that there is no God, and hence prove a universal negative, which is impossible?
You're absolutely right. We're not out there to prove. I can easily turn that question around by saying that you cannot prove that there is a God. So,
well, that's actually wrong, sir, because just to take this as an example, if someone were to say that there is no gold in Alaska, okay, if someone were to make the statement that there is no gold in Alaska, which is a universal negative, one must, in order to prove that statement, someone would have to go to Alaska, cover every single inch of every single grain of sand, and count every single grain and every single thing in Alaska to say that there's no gold in Alaska.
Analysis of every molecule that's in there, because if you go all the way down to the molecular level, yes, I agree with that.
Well, what I'm saying is that if you're trying to prove that there's no gold in Alaska, you'd have to go through every grain of sand. But if one wanted to prove that there is gold in Alaska, all they'd have to do is go to one spot and one piece of ground in Alaska and find one little fragment of gold, and that would be proven.
You can do that and find that one piece of gold and prove that person wrong. That is something that is not only possible but probable. Can you find one little piece of a God, which is not at all probable, but is somewhat possible? Sure, we'll give you that. But probable? Can you find a piece of God? Can you find any God? Can you find any proof at all? Well, we go with what's been found, and the answer is no.
But what the problem is then, sir, is to go back to the Alaska analogy, is that you just admitted that you only know 1% of the knowledge to be known in the universe, and so by that, there's 99% that you don't know. So therefore, could God live on Pluto? Have you ever been to Pluto?
It's up to you to prove that.
That's kind of a ridiculous question. No, that's kind of a ridiculous question, admittedly. But what I'm saying is that it's impossible for you to declaratively say that you know that there is no God, to make that universally negative statement that there is no God, whenever you only know such a small, tiny fragment of the information. Admittedly, you only know a small, tiny fragment of the information.
How about this? We don't generally say there is no God out. We don't generally make that universal, blatant statement.
Well,
what we generally say is there's no God been found. And there's no God been found.
So then you would have to be an agnostic then, sir. An atheist says that there is no God, right? I mean, do you not know, or go ahead.
It depends on your definition of God. We actually don't use the word God. We say that there is no supernatural being out there that, and then you as then put the word God.
But that doesn't change. That doesn't change the situation, sir.
Yes, it does. Like I said, it could easily turn the question around to you to prove God.
No,
and you have the floor right now. You have the floor.
Right. You do have the burden of that, by the way.
No, sir, that's absolutely incorrect, because if just like what you think about this, sir, if you say that there is no gold in Alaska, I mean, think about this. And all I would have to do, sir, all I would have to do is go to Alaska and anywhere find one piece of gold to prove what you said is wrong.
But that's what you've got to do with God.
Finish.
You've got to find a little piece of God, but you haven't done that yet.
Sir, but what I'm saying is that, but as far as your position is concerned, you would have to go and know every inch of Alaska in order to declaratively say that there's no gold in Alaska. Otherwise, you would be wrong. And what I'm saying, the way that relates to the reality, is that you say that there is no God, but you only know 1% of what's to be known in the universe. Therefore, there's 99% that you don't know. So how can you declaratively say that anything's so when you know so little, sir?
Can I?
mean, aren't you an agnostic instead of an atheist?
No.
Okay. Let me address that just as quickly as I can. What you just told us in a very positive way, I think, is an excellent defense of the agnostic position. You can't know everything, therefore.
But aren't you atheist, sir?
Am I atheist? Yes, I am.
Let me finish this point.
Okay, yes, sir.
But in our lives, we tend to take positions. We don't know everything, but some things we know much better than others, and some things we are convinced of. And I am convinced there's no God.
But
so I would be inaccurate about myself if I said that I was an agnostic, because frankly, for me, inside my head, there's no doubt.
Well, but
I don't have any doubt.
But sir, by your own admission here on this telephone call, you're saying that you're basing that belief that you know there's no God on the only 1% of the knowledge that there is to be known.
That's all I have. I'm going by my own experience.
Right.
And also by the fact that all my experience and all science tends to point to consistent natural law. And that pretty much precludes all the kind of things that build up to God. I mean, spirits, souls, afterlife, all the kind of stuff that maybe comes from folk tales or whatever. I think it's perfectly reasonable to reject it all.
But sir, you have to admit that you're basing that decision you've made of knowing on the fact that you don't know 99% of what there is to know. So, by your own admission, you're taking the smallest piece of information which you could possibly have and saying by virtue of that small piece of information, the much larger what you don't know, it's by that you're making your decision of knowing everything.
Okay.
It's not knowing what you claim to be the basis of your knowing, sir.
But that is still more knowledge and more information than what you're basing what a God. Are you telling me there is a God out there?
What?
Are you trying to tell me that there is a God out there?
Yes, sir. I'm a Christian, and
you're basing it on what information?
I'd like to debate you on this point if we could do that.
We'd love to have you on.
Okay. Could I get a number or something to?
Our web address.
Tell you what. Stay on the line, and my producer Kellen will get back with you, and we'll pop. And if you're up for it, we would gladly have you in here as a guest.
Yeah, there's a gentleman named Larry Wessels. Have you ever heard of him?
No, he's from Austin.
Yeah, he's from Austin. He's a gentleman who's a great warrior, in my opinion, as far as discussing atheists and agnosticism and defending the Christian faith. Really,
we would gladly welcome an intelligent debate. Yes,
I would love to see Mr. Wessels up on the stage with you guys.
Okay, tell you what, stay on the line, and Kellen, our producer, will get with you.
Okay.
Thank you for calling.
Keep in mind that little 1% there, at the base, to say you declaratively don't know on the 1%, that leaving the 99%, there could be a tremendous body of information you haven't even considered, in your position.
And the same goes for you.
Well, it's different to say, all I need is that one nugget of gold. You have to search every grain of sand in Alaska to tell me there's no gold in Alaska. So all I need to do is go there and find one little fragment.
It's such a poor analogy, and you keep referring to it.
It's not a good analogy at all.
That is a good analogy. If you were to think about it.
Talk to our producer.
If you say there is no God, then you would have to go to every planet in the solar system, every place in the universe, to say that God doesn't live on Pluto, that He doesn't live underneath the rings of Saturn.
We've already got the burden of proof on you.
But all I would have to do is go to Venezuela and find God if He lived there. Don't you see the difference? That you would have to know everything.
Our producer would love to talk to you now about
beliefs, your opinions.
So
thank you. That's because you can't defend it, sir. Go ahead.
We have another call.
Mr. Wessels would destroy you.
We only have 3 minutes.
Okay.
We're glad to meet him. Yes.
You're right, sir. Thank you very much for the call, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our next caller?
I was wondering, first of all, there's black and gold colors for the Pittsburgh Steelers today.
Black and gold?
Behind you.
Oh, no. It looks gold. It's really like tan. Off-white even.
But since you brought it up, I will be rooting for Pittsburgh today. I'm not, and I'm hoping Pittsburgh and Green Bay make it to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Go Green Bay.
What's your thought on the afterlife?
We've discussed that already once. There is no afterlife.
None. Zip.
That clears it up.
You make one revolution, and that's it.
Yes, that's how we believe. Yes.
Okay.
So, sorry, we're running towards the end of the show. Hopefully you'll call again next 2 weeks from this week. And
okay.
Let's take our another caller.
Hello, another caller.
Caller?
Go with the caller, Kellen.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, who we got
can you
here?
hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Hey, I just, can you explain to me what atheist means? Like the word of atheist.
Because we just had a problem between atheist and agnostic, let me help you with my idea of a definition of an atheist. An atheist is a person who does not have a set or a system of beliefs on or about the supernatural. Now, the supernatural includes your gods and goddesses and devils and then the supposed powers of things like voodoo or Santeria, black magic, witchcraft, things like these. Even astrology, palm reading, things like this. It's all falling into the same group, supernatural.
It's all garbage, basically. That's what see, the whole point is that, I studied religion myself.
Yes.
And I found it out that religion is like a disease, and once it gets on your head, you have to convince the person there is a God. That guy, he was just talking about Alaska. He has one forum way. It was like all program mentality, I believe, because he has no proof. What he was taught is what he was repeating.
That's a very good point. We live in a country where religion is such a paradigm, such an assumption about the universe that it's very difficult for people to break free of that kind of thing.
I mean, a lot of people spend 3/4 of their life and their daily basis talking about religion that they cannot prove, like raising a child, telling him a God. Come on, man. He might wake up one day and say, hey, show me what is a God. What are you going to tell him? Keep going around. And I just believe I'm not an atheist, or I'm not, I don't know what I am, but, but it seems like, I got away from all the religious community that has no proof, So I was just like responding to a gentleman that he was interested to talk and to trying to convince you there is a God, but I wish you would ask him in what form of God he is, to him.
Exactly. We do appreciate your call, and we're running in towards the end of the show, so...
Hey, right on, man. Just to sign what you got in the back is going to wire up a lot of people, man.
Yes,
so keep it up, man.
Thank you.
Keep it up. Bye-bye.
Thank you. We're down to 2 minutes here, so let's try to make it quick. Caller?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a distinction, or, you're talking about theists or atheists or agnostics, and people are saying, well, you can't prove that God doesn't exist, therefore you're not an atheist.
Right.
Well, my position is that it really has nothing to do with proof. It's just whatever you actually believe. In other words, let's say I had a box, and in that box I put 1,000 coins.
Right.
One side was heads, one side was tails or whatever.
Right.
Okay, I can mix that box up, all those coins up, throw them on the table, and without looking at them, I know that there is a theoretical possibility that all of them are heads. That possibility does exist.
Right.
Just as an atheist could say, yes, there's a possibility that God could exist. But me, in my heart, I believe there are some of those coins that are heads up and some of their tails, or heads, tails up.
Down to 1 minute.
So that's basically my belief. So really, being an atheist, being a theist, it's just whatever you actually believe. It's not proving anything or proving the opposition to be false. It's just whatever you believe, down in your heart or whatever. And I guess agnostic would be like having a single coin. You flip it up, you don't look at it, and ask them, well, do you believe this is heads or do you believe it's tails? Well, they say, well, I really don't have a belief on that because it could be either way.
Well, I do appreciate you calling. You brought up a good point here to finish up with. We need to remain open to all ideas. None of us have all the answers. We'll be the first ones to admit that. But the evidence that we have in our daily lives from day to day, every day, substantiates the proof that there is no supernatural being, that we live in a natural world. This is the Atheist Community of Austin. We thank you for watching.